Hi, my name is Lily and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be talking all about my 2021 resolutions that are bookish related. Some of them are booktube resolutions, some of them are reading resolutions, and there's some others in there as well that are like book aligned. I thought I'd start off by talking about my resolutions for my booktube channel. My biggest resolution is I want to keep up a regular upload schedule of twice a week. At the moment I'm uploading on Thursdays and Sundays, and I quite like that schedule. I seem to be getting a decent number of views on those days. When I've had to upload on different days for tours, it's not gone as well, so I think those might be like my sweet spot days. I would like to keep that going throughout the next year. I really like regularly uploading because it's good for me to get into a routine. I film my Thursday video on a Monday, edit it on a Tuesday, subtitle it on a Wednesday, and then post it on Thursday. And then on my Sunday one, I usually film it on the Thursday, which is what I'm doing today, and then I'll edit it on Friday or Saturday and usually subtitle it on Sunday. And that schedule of just doing like half an hour's worth of work on my video each day really helps to keep me on track and keep me focused. In terms of subscribers and things like that, I would really love to get to 500 subscribers next year, which would be over double what I've got this year. But considering I only started in about June, so that's 6 months, it's not that unreasonable to think that in another 12 months I could get way more subscribers than I did in the first 6 months. In an ideal world, I would love to get monetized by next year, but I don't think that's going to happen, especially because I don't have a great quality camera, I don't have a microphone. There's a lot of barriers in my way that means that a lot of people won't click on my content and YouTube won't boost my content. So I think the chances of me getting monetized are not great, but if that can go on my list as well, I would love to get to 1k subscribers and monetization, but I don't want to put that on paper because it doesn't feel realistic to me. I'd also really like to do some collaboration videos. I'm hoping that coronavirus will allow that to happen at some point. I don't particularly want to do virtual collaboration stuff because I find that really awkward as an autistic person. So if I can do some IRL collaborations with some friends, that would be amazing. Along a similar line, I would really love to start a book club, which I don't think that's going to happen next year, but I want to put it on my resolutions as something to work towards, and hopefully I will eventually get there. I don't really have a load of booktube pals, so I don't know if that's going to happen next year, but I would really love to be more involved in the booktube community and to start a little book club. I don't take part in any at the moment, mostly because I find there often isn't enough notice for me to go and buy the books that I need, or I don't have the money to buy the books that I need. I'd really like to start one for backlist books, so I would honestly want to call it the Backlist Book Club, but I'm sure that would have been taken by someone else by now. But something to do with reading backlist books, because I have loads on my TBR and I'd love to read them with other people who perhaps missed them when they were big, or just smaller books that people might not have heard of. So if I do end up doing that next year, then I'm sure you'll hear about it on here, but that is something I'd like to work towards at least. Of course, I'd love to keep Pixarathon going. We have the Toy Story Readathon is going to be happening in February, and then the general Pixarathon will be in June or July, I'm not sure yet, maybe even August. I'll see what other readathons are going, which ones I want to take part in, and fit it in accordingly. But yes, that's going to be really exciting. I'd love to get more people taking part this year, and the February one is having team captains, which I'm really excited about. So yes, it's going to all be big and better for Pixarathon, I hope. In terms of my reading, I am planning on putting my Goodreads goal at 52 again. I think it's best for me to have that as a low pressure goal that averages out as 1 book a week, which is completely manageable for me while I'm working full time. I imagine I'll probably get more books in, especially now that I read more audiobooks, but I don't want to put that pressure on myself early on. At the moment I have my goal set to 90, because once I hit 52 I upped it, and I've moved it up and down over time to see something a bit more realistic. For a while it was set at 80 because that seemed more realistic to me, and then when I hit 80 I decided to lift it up to 90 to try and push myself further. If I hit 90 I might update it to 100, but seeing as it's so late in the year I'll probably leave it at 90 and just go over 100% on Goodreads. But yes, that's going to be my plan. Stick it at 52. If I feel like I'm going to achieve something better, I'll lift it up and lift it back down if I need to. Now, you'll see later on in the month I'll be doing a reading stats video. I'm waiting until the year is completely finished so that the reading stats cover the whole of the year. But just from what I can see, my reading diversity has not been as good as I thought it was. This is the first year that I've tracked the content of the books that I'm reading. I've only ever used the Goodreads tracker where I just mark things as read, and use the Goodreads, what's it called? Reading challenge. I use the Goodreads reading challenge to keep track of how many books I've read and just use their wrap up. But since finding out about Notion, I have set up a reading tracker on Notion, and I have input all of the books from this year. So I thought I read a lot more diversely than I did. It feels like I have, but looking at my Notion, I haven't. I was reading a lot fewer books featuring people of colour, queer people and disabled people than I thought. Actually, that's a lie. I knew I wasn't reading many books about disabled people. I often find books featuring disability quite triggering, but I'm trying to find more books that don't trigger me as much, because the more own voices books we get, the less they're about trauma and more they're about just disabled people living their lives, which are books that I would really love. So next year I'd really like to push myself to read more diversely. It is going to be a challenge because I am trying to stick with the TBR that I've already got, which probably isn't the most diverse, but I'm going to really try and focus on, when I do buy new books, to try and make sure I'm buying as diversely as possible. Seeing as I have mentioned my TBR, my plan is I would like a net decrease in my TBR next year. Now, I'm not going to put myself on a hard and fast book buying ban at all, because that doesn't bring me any joy in my life. I like to spend a little bit of money on books. It brings me a lot of joy, and it's one of my big coping mechanisms when I'm not feeling good, and I don't want to take that away from myself. But I am now tracking how many books I haul each month, again using Notion, and I was kind of surprised by how many books I haul every month, because I wasn't really thinking about the ebooks I buy when they go on Kindle daily deals, or audiobooks I've been buying through Audible daily deals, and it's more than I imagined, and that kind of explains why my TBR that's owned has been going up more when I was expecting it to be coming down. So when I talk about my TBR, I mean books that I own. For me, that is physical books, ebooks and audiobooks that are all bought by me or gifted to me, so not any that I've read on script or borrowed from the library or borrowed from friends. They are all books that I own and keep, and they are in my possession forever until I get rid of them. So at the moment my TBR is very large, and I don't really feel comfortable saying it online because it embarrasses me, to be honest with you. And I was aiming this year to go under a significant milestone in my head, and I've gone way up. So my plan this year is a net decrease month to month. With me now tracking how much I buy each month, it's actually making me more thoughtful about which books I'm buying, because now I'm going to be telling myself in 2021 that I'm not allowed to buy any books unless I know I'm going to read more books that month. I always want to either break even or read more books than I acquire. That's probably my biggest resolution and the biggest change to my life. And honestly, the main reason for that is I really just want my space back, because my TBR isn't on these shelves. All of these books on here I have read. My TBR is kept in a cupboard in my bedroom, and I would really like that cupboard space back, to be quite honest with you. I hope one day for my TBR to all just fit on my TBR cart in my bedroom, but that's not going to happen next year, not unless some miracle happens and I read so many books. But that is the long-term goal. But in 2021 I'd really like to decrease that TBR by a significant amount, I want to say. In 2021 I would also really like to be more open and diverse in the genres that I read. At the moment I have been reading a lot of fantasy and mostly young adult. I found myself falling out of love with young adult, especially contemporary, and being more interested in adult, especially adult contemporary and adult romances, which was a bit weird for me because I thought I would never understand the appeal of adult romances until I started reading them and realising they are the same as young adult contemporary romances, just for adults, which seems really obvious to probably everyone else, but in my brain I had a different picture of them, and now I'd really like to read some more adult books. Before, I think I was pigeonholing myself into being a YA reader and exclusively YA, especially because I was mostly watching and reading content online about YA books, and that was my big focus, but I've been branching out and following more booktubers that talk about other genres, and that has really opened my eyes and made me really keen to try new genres. So those were all of my resolutions. I'm going to give you a quick roundup of one sentence per resolution. Number 1, I'd like to regularly upload and keep my upload schedule throughout the year. Number 2, I would like to get to 500 subscribers and possibly get monetized, but I'm not putting too much hope on that. Number 3, I would like to work towards creating my own book club. It might not happen next year, but I'd like to start making plans and seeing how I can make it come about. Number 4, I want to grow Pixarathon and host my 2 readathons next year and hope that I can get more people involved. Number 5, I'm aiming for 52 books total next year, but if I want to increase that goal, I will allow myself. Number 6, I would like to read more diversely, both in the content of the books and in the genre of the books. And number 7, I'd like to have a net decrease in my owned TBR, especially my physical TBR. I think honestly the way I'm going to get my physical TBR down is I have a lot of audiobooks, but I already have the physical copy. I've organised all of my audiobooks on all the different platforms from Spotify, Scribd and Audible into owned and not owned books. So when I say that, obviously I own all of them if they're on Audible, but the ones that I have physical copies of, so that I can try and get my physical TBR down, because that's the thing that troubles me the most because it takes up so much space. So yes, I think audiobooks are going to be my saviour yet again in 2021. So with all of that, I would love it if you'd share any of your resolutions down in the comments below. If you don't have any resolutions or anything else you want to say, but you want to let me know you were here, leave me a little chicken emoji down in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are down in the description below. Thanks, bye!